Hello, welcome to this class on JavaScript again. Today we'll be talking about document object model. Um, uh, and this part of JavaScript is what makes it a lot more special compared to other programming language, because you are able to manipulate your HTML documents from within JavaScript. And this is actually what differentiates a web platform or a website built with just HTML and CSS, and that's that you add JavaScript, because JavaScript makes it dynamic, that you can dynamically add things into it and manipulate things from behind or in your JavaScript using the document object model. So that is just that about the document object model. It treats it in a way, with the document object model. It gives you access, like I just said, into your HTML file or your HTML document, treating every element in it as objects. So in this sense, everything, your div tags, your even the body tags, everything treats it as objects, and that way you're able to manipulate them within the HTML file, within the JavaScript file. So what I've been able to do before we start this class is I've already designed this small list of cars kind of page. This we already added from our previous classes. Then I just did something like this so that we'll be able to work with. It's just a list of li tags with class, and this one has been here, the demo id. Then I just added a class of container to it, then use it to wrap everything else. Then I added an heading, which is this list of cars, and that's what I just did for the style. It's just a simple design, simple styling. I just made to centralize everything. Picked up the list items, added this border to it, margin of 2 pixels for space, and padding of 10 pixels to make it come out good. Then the container, I just made it 600 pixels because I know I'm going to shrink it this way, and I wanted to just be a little bit more centered. Then margin auto and background, just normal styling that you just nothing complex, just to be able to handle things here. So there are 5 ways. Let's just jump right into it. There are 5 ways in which you can, this is an error, you can actually target items in your HTML file. Just like we in CSS, you can target them using the dots nav for items with the class of nav, or items the class of item. Items, I don't know why I named it items but like that, just like you can target it like that, you can the same way target gets items from in JavaScript also. And there are 5 ways basically of doing this. The first is let me just go from the simplest to the more complex one. The first is getting by ID, or you get the individual object by ID. So let's see how this works. So you can just let's say we want to pick this our heading. It has an ID of header. So what we'll do is just create a variable. Let's header or head, anyone, head equal document. So this is the way we actually get it. Document dot get elements by ID, and that's just it. Then we'll now put the ID of that element, which in this our case is header. And you see we're getting this element and we are storing it in this head variable. To see that we're actually grabbing the right thing, let's print it on the console and see. Sorry. Let's print it on the console. And console. Okay, this is it actually. This this is what we are getting. And if you see, as I'm hovering over it, it's selecting up here. You're seeing it selecting up here. So that is what we're getting. I'm getting this because my system is not connected to the internet, I guess. That's why this error is coming up, but just ignore this one for now. So we are getting it printed to the console, and I'm coming. Let me make it more prominent so that you see that it's exactly what we are getting. Within it, you see there's a list of cars, which is the H2, H3. That's there. So basically, that is proof that we are getting. We are targeting the right element. So basically, that is how to get. That is the simplest way to target an HTML property. Then another way, which is still almost the same way, or would I say, but a little bit more. I don't want to use the word technical. Is the get document query selector, or get document by query selector. Okay, no, not get document, it's just query selector. So the query selector method selects the first document, or the first, let's say for instance you want to get a tag. Anything you can select with CSS, basically you can select with document.query selector. So the query selector, or like I've been saying, query selector, sorry, I meant this one. The query selector method selects the first element that matches that that description we put for it. So you can select headers, you can select you can select tag, you can select by class name, by ID, anyone, but it just picks the first one. So let me give you an illustration of what I'm saying. So I'll just name this one header, or let me just name first item, because that is what it does. First, just name it first. I don't want to confuse it. So it's a document get element by query selector. So this method, we can put either you could put, if it's an ID you're trying to target, you can put then the ID. Like if you wanted to get this head, you could just say header, and it will go and look for that, if you go, that element with the header. So let's see, console, let's put it on the console. You see, we are getting that here as well. But one of the things that you would also notice, or you would see in this, like I was saying, it gets the first element. So in this case, let's just try it with the list items. We have this Toyota and this one, all of them are list items. So let's just try to prove to you that it just gets the first one. So since we want items, you will see it gives you the first with the Toyota. That's the first item with the class Toyota. Even though there are several items with that class Toyota, it just picks the first one with the several elements with the same class of item. It picks the first one, and that's what it gives you. Even if we say div, we want it to get us a div. That if you are searching by tag name, we just put div, and you see it will give us the first div, which is nav. And if you check our document, really the first div is this with a class of nav. So basically, that is how query selector works. That's how query selector works. The same, another way of selecting elements is with the query selector all. So let's just dive into it since we've talked about query selector. It works the same way, but different in the sense that let's items, it will give you a node list, or a list of items you can actually, like an array object. So um, that you can actually loop over or perform any array functions or array methods on. So something like this. Let's say we want to get not query selector all, and we want to get all elements with the item. So we'll just put full stop items. Sorry. So if we'll put it on the log, we'll log out items. We'll see we are having a node list here already with, let me put it here so that you need to see it very well, with three items basically. And if you notice, as I'm hovering over it, let me bring this down, take this up, you'll see it is reflecting. So we can actually, this is just like an HTML, or will I say like an object, a node list that you can actually use array method on. That is what query selector all does. It selects all the items that match with this thing, with the query that you gave to it. So here and as you can see, we have 3 items, or 4 items, sorry, because it's an array. It's just like an array, 0 base. 4 items that match up the same thing, item that has the same class name of items. That's what comes up. So that is, so basically from the difference you can know that query selector selects the first item, while query selector or selects all items with the same parameters that you give it. So next off is document gets element by class name, and I just like it's how will I say, it's self-explanatory. Let me just give it a name of class item. Use camel case. Dot get element by class name. And see, this one we could just put the class name, which is in this case items. And if we check it on the console, you see we have an HTML collection that gives us all the items, and as you can see, we can hover over them, just the same thing, the same way like the query selector all will give us, only that this one gives us a node list, this one gives us an HTML collection. But basically you can actually perform array, they are both all array like objects that you can actually perform array methods on them. You can loop through them, you can use .length method with them and the rest. So basically this is what it gives you when you use get element by class name. Another one that we need to talk about, the way we can actually select elements in JavaScript, is I would say the last one, but it's not the least, which is get element by tag name. And just like it is, like the name goes, it gets you the element by the tag name. And it will also give you like a node list, because for instance, if you have more than one element carrying that tag, it brings it all to you. Just the same thing like this query selector will do and class name will do. It will just give you something similar to that. So let's see how it works. So I'll say tag items and document dot get element by tag name. And let's say we want all the divs, and if we let's let's just put it on the console and see what it gives us. Tag items, and you see it gives us another HTML collection. Okay, not a node list this time. It gives us an HTML collection with 3 items, the first being the header div, then we have the nav, the first being the nav div, then the container div itself, then the header div, then the demo container div. I don't know. Okay, I think it just kind of repeated itself in a way, but what we have is an HTML collection with this, the first one being the nav, the second one being the container itself, then the header. And basically, if you look at our document, those are the 3 divs we have. We have the nav div, which is this one, the container div, which is what wrap everything, then we have the header div. That's all. Header div, that's all. And these are the 3 div elements that we have. So that is what get element by tag name will give you, to give you an HTML collection, just like an array object, that you can actually perform array like methods or manipulations with it. So these are the 5 basic ways of finding an element using JavaScript, or finding an element using JavaScript. And you can actually do so many things with these elements once you've gotten them. For instance, now let's say let me just get rid of this console, this while we are logging to the console. So let's say, for instance, I want to change the color of this to red. You could just simply say we've already selected it here. Get element by header, and we can just come here and just say header, head, and dot style, and dot color equals, let's turn it to blue. So say blue, and once we save this, our color automatically becomes blue. And this is actually how you manipulate. You can begin to start manipulating the DOM from your HTML, from your CSS JavaScript file. You can be able to manipulate and add style, add other attributes and properties to your JavaScript file. Now let's assume we want to do the same thing for all these text item, Toyota, Jeep, and I want to change the color. And if you notice, we are already selecting them here. If we try to do something like we did here with the head, we'll say items dot style dot color equals, let's say, red. If we do this, it will not work. It will not work. And let's see what's giving us in the console. Okay, so it's telling us that type error, cannot set properties for undefined setting color. So basically it will not work because these items there, it's an HTML collection. And for you to be able to work with it, we have to loop through it before we're able to add that color to it. So a way to go about this we could just simply do a for loop. There's a video on for loop in case you don't understand how to do a for loop. There's a video in the channel. There's a video on for loop already, and you could just go over it and refresh. So basically, and so we're saying we're setting a variable equal to 0, and we're now saying as long as that variable is less than the length of which one should we use? We could either use, okay, let's use the class, okay, let's use items dot length, so the length of items. Then we would now increment that variable. So now what we could just do is say item, the instance, then we could now change the color. And you see that worked. The color has been changed, and you see that worked. And that is the best and easy way to work with collections or node lists. You look through them because they hold the same properties like an array, so you treat them like an array. So that is how to, and there's so many things you can actually do to manipulate objects in JavaScript, DOM objects in JavaScript, and as the course continues on, we'll just keep doing more and more and more of these experiments and learning new things. So another thing we could do, or one cool thing we could do in JavaScript again, is we could create an element on the fly and add it to what's already displayed on the DOM. And this is actually very sweet, and this is actually a very sweet thing you can actually do. So first, should I leave this? Okay, let's just comment this out so that I would like you to have it. I'll just put this. So now save, and we're back to what we are. So we can actually create elements on the fly. And how do we do this? This is how we can actually easily do this. Let's say we want to add another brand of car to the lists above. Let's just create one on the fly. So if you'd see back to our HTML elements, we already have this UL, and these li items are actually inside of this UL. So what we'll just do is we grab this UL, and since it's only one, we only have one list item here, so we could just use get element by tag name. So we could say UL equals document dot get element by tag name, and in this case UL, right? So now we are grabbing the elements, the whole of the UL. So you could just, let me just put it on the console so that you see we're actually doing that. So let's inspect and see what we have. Console, we have an HTML collection with one element, which is the UL, basically. So we are grabbing all the UL items there. So now what we can now do, since we have this element already, what we can now do is we can create a new li element. So when we console.log, we'll get an HTML collection of this. Oh, sorry. Let's just use const. So const UL, then we'll get this HTML collection length of 1, which is basically what we are getting. So or we could just simply rather than this, we could just use query selector because to just give us the same thing. Query selector, and basically we are getting the same URL here. So const query selector will get a URL. So when we view our URL here now, since I just saved, then we now have the items, Toyota, and the rest pop up. So now to create an element, we could just create another const equal to an li. Sorry, what am I doing? Li equal to document dot create element. And what element do we want it to create? We want it to create an li for us. An li. Basically, that's all. So it has created this li as it is, but if we let's just check it on the console. It is not on this document, but we've already created an li, and if you see here, we have an li. We have an li, and there's a lot we could actually do with this. There's nothing inside. There's nothing inside. So basically, what we can do with this li now is we can add text inside. So a way to do that is say li dot inner html, and we can now add, let's say, Mercedes, and when we console it out, we have our message, our element created with the Mercedes inside of it, but it will not show in our document because it's not here. We just created it here. We created it here. We added something inside. It is not part of this URL. So how to put it into this URL? What we'll do is there's a since it uses the array, it's like an array. We can actually use the append method on it. So we could say, we'll come down and say URL dot append, and what are we appending? We're appending the li, and that's it. Simple. And you see it pops up here. It pops up here. So what we can actually do again, we can actually it is here but as a list item, but it does not have the unique styling of this because it does not have the attributes of the rest. So there's something we can actually do to it also. Let me just remove this console. See, we are beginning to manipulate the DOM in a way. So we could say li dot something called class list dot can I add, and this add method will now be able to add a class to it. And if you notice, all these items have a class of items, so we could just decide to add it to it, items, and when we do that, you see it has the same styling as the rest, and it is just added on the fly with JavaScript from the backend. Sorry, from JavaScript, not backend anyway, sorry, from JavaScript, and we've been able to add an item on the fly to the DOM. This, if you notice, if you go back to your HTML document, you will not see it here because this is what we had coded. This is what we had coded from normal HTML. But if you see from JavaScript, we've been able to pick up what to be able to create an item, put something inside, and append it to the UL, then give it a style or the style that other items have, and it is now the same as if it was created from the beginning. So this is the dynamism that JavaScript adds to your HTML document. So imagine you're creating I don't want to go too deep, but you could actually imagine creating a form where you could add something in your form, and when you submit, JavaScript picks that thing and appends it to your list like that. And you could just start thinking of ideas on what you can actually do with this. So basically that's how you can actually manipulate the DOM, and there's so many other things, and we'll just keep talking about it one after the other. So finally, before I end this video, then we'll continue the rest in the next classes, we just created an element, and we added it to our DOM. Basically, we can also remove elements from the DOM. So like this li we created, now we could just say li remove element, I think, yeah, remove element, and we just that's, yeah, li the remove element. I think I'm pretty sure. Remove element, and it's supposed to, okay, it's not going away. Okay, the remove, not remove element, sorry, remove, and when we save, it's gone. And that is actually how to remove an element from the DOM, basically. So we can add and remove, and we could create, then append, then we could also remove an element from the DOM. So imagine you can also equally remove the UL. Let's just UL dot remove, and you save, and it's gone, and that is that about creating and removing elements. And you see it's back because we created this and added it back, so everything comes back when I remove the. So that's that about this class. The next class will be talking about how to further traverse the DOM and how to further use what we're learning to create something cool. So please try and join us in the next class.